Are the All Blacks or the Springboks under more pressure heading into round 3 of the Rugby Championship? Which, I'll be honest with you, was not a question I expected to be asking at this point. What an unbelievable first couple of rounds we've had. It's blown it wide open. It's potentially going to be the most exciting Rugby Championship we've seen in a long, long time. But where does it leave the Springboks? Where does it leave the All Blacks? And who is under more pressure? I suppose an important point to mention right at the start of the video is respect to the Wallabies and the Pumas here. Australia and Argentina are sides on the up. In particular, from an Australian point of view, Argentina have been picking up some pretty impressive results over the last year or so, but that's an important part of the context when we're looking at where the Springboks and the All Blacks find themselves. So welcome back to the channel. My name's Alfie. Appreciate you clicking on the video. The comments section is where you can have your say. What do you think? Are the Springboks or the All Blacks under more pressure? And it's quite open, that. I thought I'd leave it pretty open because it depends what direction you're going to go in. It depends how you're defining the pressure on these two sides and the questions surrounding them. So I'm intrigued to know how all of you interpret it. And the comment section is where you can do just that. Like the video as well, and I would love it if you hit that subscribe button as well. If I can earn your subscription, that'd be awesome. We're almost at 18,000, so hopefully in the not too distant future, we tick over that number. So in terms of the pressure for these sides, I think there's different types of pressure on each of them. I think for South Africa, there's a certain pressure with what we're seeing at the moment, which kind of stems from the fact that they have been so dominant, so good, so impressive, back-to-back world champions. And then over these last couple of games is probably the first time where you've really seen concerns, I think, in their performances. Certainly for a long, long time, possibly going all the way back to kind of 2018 and when Erasmus came in. So I think that's where the pressure is coming from the Springboks. It's around their overall performance. And with the All Blacks, I think it stems from them almost being the All Blacks and the expectation upon that side and upon that jersey. But I'll kind of flesh it out and get into what I mean with each of them. Let's start with the Springboks. The big concerns here for South Africa, and the reason I think there is pressure, is the result at Ellis Park, but it wasn't just the result, it is the performances in the two games against Australia. The performance after 20 minutes in the first game at Ellis Park, when they were 22-0 up and ended up losing it, was kind of shell-shocked, I think was the way that it seemed anyway, watching it from here and watching it through the TV. But then major concerns, I think, with the performance in the game that they actually won as well. It was a better performance. They got the victory that was the important thing. But it was a bit sloppy, wasn't it? There were a lot of drop balls. It wasn't quite as slick as we've previously seen. I thought it was really interesting that South Africa almost went back to the DNA of South African rugby, what we would stereotype them into being able to do the most. And they do it so effectively. But having Pollard at 10, kicking it a lot, competing, going quite narrow, that's what they went back to. I wonder whether they are going to go along a similar route in New Zealand at Eden Park, maybe go 7-1 on the bench or certainly 6-2, have their big bodies, have those quality players and really strip it back and simplify it, which I think makes sense, by the way. It's not a criticism at all. I think it makes total sense why they would do that against Australia. But there were still elements, I think, in terms of drop balls and clunky attack and just other parts of the play that are cause for concern for the Springboks. And I think that's where the pressure is coming from, really, is where is the performance? And all the questions are swirling around, and it's so easy to get ahead of yourself, isn't it? Because if in a couple of weeks' time, South Africa rock up at Eden Park and physically dominate New Zealand and win there and end that record, then everyone will look back and say, what was everyone thinking about? What was the overreaction about? So I suppose the pressure from the Springboks comes from a need to find performance. But I do wonder, and it's a natural cycle for a team, is this South African side just almost caught between transitions at the moment? Are they in a point in between World Cups, midway between World Cups, where maybe some of the older guys in the squad probably need to start to be transitioned out, some other players need to come in? Just, it happens to all teams. As I said in the last video I did, progression is not linear. Maybe that's what we're seeing with South Africa, but I think that is where the pressure is coming from, is where's the performance and where is this team at this moment in time? They could still win this whole thing and maybe there's no pressure at all. As for the All Blacks, I think it's different because It strikes me, I'm really interested in New Zealand fans here to give me your views. It strikes me the pressure on the All Blacks isn't just results. I know the All Blacks losing is a big deal and them losing to Argentina is a big deal, even though we have seen that happen in New Zealand previously last year. But I think there's demands for improvements from this team. In the second year of Scott Robertson, I think there's demands and improvements in the overall performance on a consistent basis. I think consistency seems to be a big thing for this team. I think there's questions over selection and do they know their best midfield combination or their best back three combination. There's injuries at half-backs, which is causing issues at the moment. But who do you want to see at half-back? Probably backing up Roygaard, he'd be the number one, wouldn't he? And in the back row a little bit as well. I think there are questions. There's uncertainty in this All Blacks team. That's probably the best way I can probably summarise it from my point of view. There's pressure on this All Blacks team because of uncertainty and questions kind of about where this team is going and if they are improving and all that sort of thing. And it's a funny one with New Zealand. I still think on their day they are capable of being exceptional and almost beating anyone. I really, really do still see that in them. But they're just not quite as consistent as All Blacks teams in years gone by. And I suppose some of the concern amongst All Black fans maybe is that are these some of the same issues that we saw last year, which you're wanting to see fixed by now? Should some of these questions over selection have been answered by now, rather than still sat here and wondering who your best back three is, what your midfield combination should be? I suppose one of the real green shoots I feel watching the All Blacks is I feel like quite a few of the issues are quite fixable. The amount of missed tackles they had against Argentina, the discipline problems and the penalties and the 3 yellow cards. Now, again, a caveat, and I have seen a few New Zealand fans point this out, saying, well, those are some of the same issues that we were seeing in frustrating games last year. So it isn't a team that's learning. But I still look at issues like that and I think they are fixable. They are fixable for players of this quality. And maybe the missed tackles and defensive stuff speaks to some of the defensive shape and the coaching and that sort of thing, which is a bigger problem if that is the underlying issue. But I still feel like it is fixable. I still feel like New Zealand on their day are capable of beating anyone, which of course the Springboks are as well, I should caveat. But yeah, that's probably my kind of general thoughts at the moment on New Zealand and the pressure on them is, are they improving? Selection, uncertainty about where this team is and where it's heading and whether they're currently improving enough, I suppose. And naturally, there's a big reaction in New Zealand when they lose a game, particularly against Argentina. So there's plenty of pressure when it comes to that. So what are my conclusions? I'm really intrigued in all of your thoughts on this. As I've said already, I think the Springbok pressure comes from performance expectations based upon their previous success, double World Cup winners. All Blacks pressure comes from the history and the demands of the team to improve. And I feel like if you're looking at performance in terms of who's under more pressure currently in the Rugby Championship, I think the Springboks' performances personally have been more alarming. Partly that is because they were coming from probably a higher bar because, as I said, back-to-back world champions, defending champions in the Rugby Championship, the number one team in the world. I think that their performances against Australia have been more alarming. But I think for the All Blacks, and if we're looking at the next round, the pressure of Eden Park, the pressure of being the All Blacks, the pressure of expectations on this team when you step into that jersey. And I think if you're thinking about the reaction, if the Springboks were to lose at Eden Park to New Zealand, Springbok fans would be massively disappointed. Of course they would, but it's Eden Park and it's the All Blacks. I think if the All Blacks were to lose to the Springboks at Eden Park and that record was to come tumbling down, I think that would be a way bigger reaction. And so therefore I'm inclined to say that there's currently more pressure on the All Blacks. But it depends how you slice up the conversation, how you view it, what you make of it, and all of that stuff you can have your say in the comments down below. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned in terms of pressure that absolutely stands out to you with these two teams? Let me know, give me your comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.